Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us. We are really thrilled to have you for our session, the California University Ecosystem. My name is Yana Ovcharenko, and I am an outreach coordinator here at Education USA Ukraine. I hope that you remember that Education USA is your official source on US higher education, and you can always rely on us if you want to start your journey in the United States of America. As I said, our today's session is the California University Ecosystem, which is going to be led by an amazing speaker, Dr. Tim. He is from Santa Clarita, and he is a representative of College of the Canyons. And I believe that Dr. Tim is going to share different secrets and life hacks how to enter the California University ecosystem. So stay tuned. And before we dive into the session, I just want to remind you that we will open Q&A session at the end. So please do not hesitate to write all your questions right here in the chat, and be sure that you will have all answers at the end. So, Dr. Tim, the floor is yours. Thank you for joining us today.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you very much for this opportunity to boast about what's going on in California for university students. And so I figure, let's start the presentation and we'll just get right into it. Great. So I have been to Ukraine. I do like it a lot. We can talk about that later. Let's talk about you and let's talk about schools first. So thank you very much again to Education USA and everyone for making this happen. So first of all, going to school in California is not what you think, most likely. So of course, a bachelor's degree is the goal. And that's important to remember when you start talking about community colleges, because community colleges are a lot of things. Acceptance is very, very easy. I have never found a student that I cannot find a home for in the university system in California. I'm talking about students that have very much not distinguished themselves academically in high school, which it happens a lot. And I'm also talking about students which are very good at doing school, so they're top of their class in high school. All of those students have a home in California. All the barriers are removed. And so if you think of it this way, when you do the things that I'm talking about in the next few slides, a lot of people think about, how do I get into a university? What do I have to do? What extracurricular activities do I have to have? What test scores do I need to have? Those are not a factor in California. We have 50 years of data that demonstrates that there's not a great correlation between students who have distinguished themselves in interesting activities and great grades and students which have not. The end result is frequently not what you think. And that's because when you study abroad, everyone can do university in their mind. They're intellectually capable. It's the heart that matters. There's no tests to get in with the system that I'm going to tell you about. All English levels are accepted. The better your English, the more likely you're going to have less problems with a visa. And also, you do have to have some English. It can't be completely zero. And we can talk about that at the end, but that's not that important. And here's your first hack. And every time I talk about a hack, which is a great way to kind of rethink university in California, I'll have a little red H for hack. Every major is available. And I get asked over and over, well, do you have this major? Do you have that major? The answer is yes. We have Swahili. So, we have everything in California. There's, hundreds of institutions. And then, of course, another goal is post-completion jobs. So that's these are the kind of things to think about. And then the next thing I want to talk about really fast is, why is it so hard Why is getting into school so hard? Why is everybody always so stressed about it and struggling to figure out how to get the best fit school and all those things? The biggest thing is it's the visa. The visa is the hardest thing to get all around the world. And it really does truly cost $150,000 for everything to get a bachelor's degree. Now, if you go to a prestigious private school, it'll cost 2, 3, 4 times that. I'm talking about if you do the thing that all the California students do. They do community college for 2 years, and then they do 2 years at a state university. That's $150,000. If you don't have enough money to make that happen, the visa officer is not going to give you the visa. And we'll talk some more about that when we get into hacks. Forget about scholarships. I get asked about scholarships over and over and over. Pretend there's no scholarships. There's 1 million international students in the United States. There is a dozen full ride scholarships. Now, there's little scholarships here and there. I have a little $1,000 scholarship every year. Nothing about scholarships is something you should count on as your way of paying for a university education in the United States. So there's so many web pages and lists you can buy and money you can spend to try to get a scholarship. Forget it. And then another downside is you do have to change universities in the middle. So a university degree in the United States is 4 years. So you do 2 years at one school and 2 years at another school. You may not have to move, or you may need to move. Depends on what school you go to and how far away it is from the first school. It's not hard, but it's different. A lot of people think I'm going to go spend 4 years. I'm going to live on campus in a dorm. And in 4 years, I'm going to pop out with a degree and go get a job. So you do have to change the universities with this hack that I'm talking about today and sort of how this ecosystem works. All right. So bottom line, this is the simplest way to explain it. You started at a community college. I'm going to talk about those. There's over 100 in California alone. You transfer to a state university. There's a dozen or 2 dozen state universities. Transfer is guaranteed. You complete a bachelor's degree. Then you go to work. And if you want to, and I highly recommend it, you go do a master's degree. And then maybe you decide to do a PhD as well. And when we talk about the actual institutions, like the famous ones like Berkeley and UCLA you've heard about, we'll talk about PhDs. So this is what you actually do. You apply. Applying, most schools are similar to mine, but not everybody, all the community colleges have different ways of applying, but they're all pretty easy. I think I have the easiest, but it's really simple. And then you choose what's called a transfer major. And here's your next hack. You can major in anything. And I'm not kidding, anything. But I always have in mind the visa. That visa interview is important. And so some majors are specially labeled as transfer majors. And remember, I told you you have to switch schools. So this transfer major that we're talking about needs to be called a transfer major. So it'll be psychology for transfer, or physics for transfer, or computer science for transfer. Pick that, something that says for transfer, because I'm going to write that on the paperwork for the visa officer. It's called an I-20. It's going to be in their database, and it's going to tell the visa officer right then and there, you know that you're going to transfer and that you're not going to be for 4 years at the first school. That's important because a lot of students get kind of caught up in questions about that. And when they can't clearly state what they're doing, they frequently lose the visa opportunity. Next thing, the next hack is about money. Remember I told you it was $150,000. It is. So the way the rules work is you only need to show the costs of the first year in order to get the paperwork for the visa interview. Well, the cost for that at my school, for example, is $32,000. You will spend that much money. Lots of other schools have different numbers, but the main point is whatever that number is, make sure you've got more than that. If you have 3 times more, that's really good, because what happens is you show me a bank statement that shows your liquid assets, so the cash available for school. You only have to show 1 year. But if you show me 3 years, since I'm entering that number into the database for the visa officer to look at when he meets you, we can just take off the table, how are you going to pay for this? It's a very common question. And how to pay for it is really important. And a lot of students don't have the money and they say, well, I'm going to get a scholarship. And then they end up not getting the visa. That's a bummer. So show 3 times the funding that's asked from the school that you're applying to, because that's really what it's going to cost. So speaking good English is important because you need to be able to answer the questions. It doesn't have to be great English. Nobody expects you to be as fluent as me or Yana. It's really just good enough, because when you come into my school, I'm going to level up your English first thing. Another hack, sign up for classes. So sign up for classes before the interview. A lot of students wait to see, well, do I get the visa? If I get the visa, I'll sign up for classes. Sign up for classes in advance so that you can strategically tell the visa officer, I am signed up for classes. That's a really important indicator that you're a serious student and you're not just trying to immigrate to the USA, which is a big concern of the visa officer. Another hack, most schools, you're going to stay with a host family, especially for the first semester. You know nothing. You don't know where to go to get groceries. You don't know how to take the bus. You know nothing. You need help. And the best way to get that is to stay with a host family when you're doing the hacks that I'm talking about. Arrange for that host family in advance. Meet them on Zoom. Take a screenshot. Bring the screenshot to the visa interview. Hold that screenshot up and say, yeah, I'm going to stay with Mr. and Mrs. Smith. They are renting me a bedroom. Then you've taken, with a lot of times students have not made arrangements and they don't know how to explain where they're going to stay. And they make the mistake of saying, I'm going to stay in the dorms. Well, the dorms are really hard to get into in the United States and in California. And most schools in California don't have dorms. So you say that, the visa officer knows that, and they won't give you the visa. So these are important things to remember. The next thing you'll end up in is you'll end up in your visa interview. We'll talk about that some more in a few minutes. And then, of course, that transfer, that switching to that other school, that's all guaranteed. I manage that. You don't have to worry about that. Community colleges manage the transfer for you. Yes, you have to fill out paperwork. Yes, you have to write an essay. Yes, you have to do some things, but it's a well-trodden path. Everyone knows about it. All right, let's move on. So what is a community college? I've been kind of talking around it. I haven't really come right out and said it. Well, a community college is half of a university. It's the first 2 years of a 4-year degree. And it's a very different experience than many 4-year universities. Many 4-year universities are what you've seen in the movies. Community college is not that at all. It's much more boring. It's specifically designed to reduce costs. So it's designed, as you know, in America, we're always complaining about how much things cost around getting an education and how much debt we have. And it's a big issue in financial circles and with families here in the United States. Well, community colleges dramatically reduce the cost. It cuts it in half. Now, that means it's less expensive, which means international students get to pay a lot less. And that's why it's only $150,000 for a bachelor's degree instead of, say, $200,000 or $250,000. And that's because you save a lot of money those first 2 years. Saving money is not important to the visa officer. He doesn't care that you're going to community college as a strategic way to save money. In fact, that could count against you. So like I said, you show 3 times the money and you wipe that off the table. Community colleges are also designed for sports. Lots of people all over the world say, hey, I'm the next Pele. I'm the most, I'm the best athlete. I have so much potential, but it's almost impossible to get that information to universities in the United States. Community colleges are specifically designed to test how well you really can perform. So if you think you're great at a sport, go to a community college that has that sport, whether no matter what it is, golf, tennis, football, basketball, and the coach there at that community college is going to know, oh, this guy's really good. This person is great. I know some 4-year universities that need this position in this sport. I'm going to call that coach and tell him, hey, you got to look at this person. They almost become your agent, which means when you start talking about the possibility of scholarship, you start talking about possibility of scholarships, which I told you to forget about at first. That's when the scholarship comes in, is for the second 2 years. And that's when the costs go way up. So it's really important to get that. Another thing about community colleges, you can change your major. So you sign up for physics for transfer, and you end up studying early childhood education. That's no problem. You can change as many times as you want. There's no rules on that. Community colleges do not have research programs. That keeps the costs way down. They have no marketing budget. So we don't, market the college all over the world the same way that, say, a prestigious university like Harvard does. We have no Greek life. There's no fraternities or sororities. So if that's your number one reason for going to university, you're going to be disappointed at a community college, because all we have is academic clubs and hobby clubs. So piano club, math club, political science club, Model United Nations club, volleyball club, things like that. So it's a very different experience than a normal university, which is why it's half a university. Community colleges are directly focused on academic success. So we very much care about academic success. But other than the clubs and student government and things like that, there's not a lot of organized social life. It's not like you see in the movies. And of course, there's very easy transfer to state university, which is the goal. Like I said in the first slide, the number one goal is that bachelor's degree. So that's kind of what a community college is. We'll talk some more about them in a minute. We're going to go through these three pictures, because this is where the schools are located. So the first picture is the community college picture in California. And I know, man, look at all that tiny type and all these lines. I'm just telling you, there's over 100 different community colleges in California. There is a place for you. Not all the community colleges are great for international students because of their staffing, but there's at least 20 that are good. There's 10 that are great. And then there's 5 like College of Canyons, which are just world class, specifically designed for international student achievement. So there's so many of them. And all of these schools have an equal opportunity to transfer to the next school. And here's the picture of the next schools. So in the next schools, here's your famous Los Angeles. That's UCLA. You've heard that. Here's Berkeley. Everybody's heard of Berkeley. But all these schools offer bachelor's degrees. So you'll do your second 2 years at any of these schools. And they also offer master's degrees. And the blue ones are the ones that offer PhDs. So research institutions are specifically designed for PhD programs. So a school like Berkeley or UCLA, those are schools which are specifically designed for research. Yes, you can go get your bachelor's degree, but what they're really looking for when you're doing your bachelor's degree, are you really the caliber of academic that is going to continue on and do a PhD? That's why it's so hard to get into Berkeley and UCLA. So many people want to go there because they're famous. They have great research institutions. They've attracted fantastic talent in the field who work there, and you get to rub elbows with them. And that's fantastic. But if your goal is a bachelor's degree and a job in California to do OPT, you don't need Berkeley or UCLA. So you don't have to say, well, I can't go to Berkeley, I can't come to the United States. It's not true. Employers actually go to the red schools because they know those people have the go to work degree. So it's a little bit different. But you transfer to any of these schools. Whether you get accepted to that school or not depends on 3 factors. Those 3 factors are a whole nother webinar we will talk about another time. But just know it's wide open for you. All right, let's keep going. The visa interview. Man, this is really, really important. Like I said, the way that universities are structured in California now, it's very easy to get in. It's hard to stay in because you have to maintain good grades, and it's very difficult. It's university level work, just like any other university. But the real hard part is always the visa. That visa interview is going to be between 30 seconds and 3 minutes, depending on how busy they are. And all the information about you, and I'm talking about what your parents do, how much money they make, who your relatives are in the United States, how many times you visited the United States, what other visas you've had, how much money you say you have in order to pay for your university degree, all your siblings, your Facebook posts, everything is displayed for the visa officer. And they can see that funding number. And that is why I keep saying show 3 times what your school's asking. Now, on the other hand, there's no trick questions. They're not trying to fool you. They want to give the visa. Nobody, no human wants to continuously say no to every student over and over and over and watch their dreams be dashed. They don't want that. They want you to be successful. They really want to give you the visa. You just have to make sure you don't make the mistake of giving them a reason not to. And then I want to encourage anyone who doesn't get a yes the first time to try again. So far, the record that I've heard is 9 tries in China before the student got a visa. So they had to keep going back and fixing things, fixing how much money they really had, fixing what school they were applying to, fixing whatever it was that the consular officer wanted to know. Where are you going to live? Do you know what you're doing? Why are you doing this? So all of those things are important. During the interview, always tell the truth. And I'll state that over and over. The number one reason why a visa gets denied is because you lie or even just make a mistake about something that really doesn't matter. People hear that, oh gosh, if I have relatives in the United States, I can't get a visa because they think I'm just going to live with a relative and not go to school. So they don't let me get a visa. So they say, no, I don't have any relatives. But the visa officer already knows you do. So don't do that. Dress down. Here's a hack. A lot of people don't know. But when you dress up really fancy with lots of makeup and fancy jewelry, or you come in with all your bling and your $200 sunglasses, don't do that. If you want to wear a suit, business casual, or even a suit with a tie, that's fine. But just be a regular person. Business casual is fine. Know your whole plan. And again, the whole idea on a visa, that's a whole nother webinar. And so, but know your whole plan. Know why you're going to the school you're going to. Know where you're going to do when you're done. And we'll talk about exit strategy at the end as another question you have to really know about. Here's a hack. Make as many arrangements as possible in advance of the interview. And I already talked about 2 of them. One of them is sign up for your classes. And the other one is where you're going to live. Figure it out. Know where you're going to live. Don't let the visa officer think that you're going to figure it out at the last minute or after you land at LAX and come to the school. Don't do that. Making arrangements in advance. And a lot of people don't want to do that because they don't want to spend the money for the application fee for the host family. Well, look, you're going to spend $150,000. You can spend $250 on an application. And then if you don't get the visa, you don't get the visa. You try again and you try again. The worst thing happens is you lose $250, but you have to try. And it really makes a difference during the interview. Be really good at answering questions. So this is a whole nother presentation, a whole nother webinar on visas. But being good at answering questions means this. They say, why did you pick College of the Canyons, for example? So the wrong answer is College of Canyons is a very prestigious school in California. I'm not. Community colleges aren't prestigious. We're not about prestige. We're about student success. Very different. What you would say is, because I met Dr. Tim, my family met Dr. Tim, and Dr. Tim's going to make sure I'm successful. That's why you pick College of the Canyons. Because of the visa officer, there's 100 community colleges and they're all exactly the same. So you have to be strategic, which means I need to meet you and I need to meet your parents. Because remember, you have to tell the truth. So I want to talk to your parents if you're coming to my school. Know how you're paying for this. So really I know money's hard to talk about in families, but if you've shown 3 times the money, maybe the question won't come up. But if it does come up, know how it's being paid for. My parents have been, and here's the being good at answering questions. When they ask, how is your schooling going to be funded? You say, my dad's paying for it. That's not a good enough answer. You have to say, well, my family's been planning on me studying in the United States my whole life. So we've been saving up and planning and setting aside money this whole time. So it's being paid for by my family. We've been saving for this. That's a very different answer than just, my dad's paying for it. I guess he has the money. I don't know. And then here's a hack that we can talk about later. Start taking university classes for credit when you're in high school. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But if you've already started taking courses and they ask you, why did you pick College of the Canyons, or why did you pick whatever school you're going to, or why do you want to study the United States? Make sure you strategically answer that question and add in, and I've already taken some classes, and look, I got A's and B's. So that's a really good hack, because overcoming the visa is one of the hardest things you're going to do, other than final exams. All right, next thing, we're going to review. So let's review the hacks, because this is really about hacks for entering into the California University biosystem. Start taking a course, at least one, starting your 11th year in high school. You qualify to do, not all schools allow it. College of Canyons does. There's a few other schools that do. And you don't have to come to College of Canyons. Those classes count anywhere in California. And frankly, they actually count anywhere in the United States for almost every school except for a few private schools, private religious schools. So you're not wasting your time. You're just working harder in high school, but it helps a lot for the visa. Apply a year in advance if you can. So you could make a visa appointment a year in advance, so apply a year in advance. Don't wait till 3 weeks before the semester starts to apply. Now, if you do that for me, I'm going to give you the I-20 and cross my fingers, but now you've got to get into a visa interview. You've got to make your arrangements for housing. It's hard to get to be successful when you do that. Show 3 times the necessary funding. So like I said, for example, I'm a community college, so my funding requirements are low. That's also counts against you at a visa. So show 3 times that amount. Choose a transfer degree. Now look, by the time you actually transfer, it's probably 3 years from when you first applied to the school. You can change your mind 7 times, which is fine. So just pick something that seems reasonable and that is called a transfer degree. And that really helps a lot with a visa. Before you go to your visa interview, after you've been accepted by the school, you've got an ID number, sign up for classes for the semester that you're going to be on campus. So know what classes you're going to take before you enter. Sign up for 12 credits, for example, of courses, so that when the visa officer says, why did you pick College of Canyons, or why did you pick College of whatever, then you can say, well, I've already started taking courses there, and I'm currently signed up for courses for the fall. It just means you are a real student who really, really wants to come to the United States to study on a study visa. If you have intentions of staying or starting a business or immigrating, that's a different visa, and the visa officer is trying to screen you for that. Choose a host family in advance, talk to them, meet them, take a screenshot of your Zoom call, and bring a picture of it so that you can say, I'm staying with this family, and you hold the picture up, and there you are on a Zoom call with a family. Know your full plan, including why you're doing what you're doing and your exit strategy. Your why can't be because my mom's making me do it, or because all the other kids are, or because I want to go to the United States. We'll talk about why in a different one, in a different webinar. But I'm going to mention this in particular, and that's the exit strategy, because this is a hack that a lot of people don't do, because it's really hard to think about, what am I going to do 5 years from today when you're 17 years old? Well, you need to demonstrate to the visa officer you've thought through. And the visa officer wants to know you're going to leave when you're done with your degree. Now, leaving is a whole nother topic. But look, if you come to College of Canyons and then you transfer and then you do OPT, then you do a master's degree, you do OPT again, we're talking 10 years before you're done with your visa. Who knows what's going to happen in 10 years? You meet people fall in love, people have their circumstances at home change, all sorts of things can happen. So, but your exit strategy, you need to demonstrate to the visa officer that you need to leave when you're done getting your degree. So don't talk about working, don't talk about starting businesses, don't talk about bringing your sick grandmother who need, or don't talk about any of those things. Those are not your plan. Your plan under a student visa is to go to school, get the degree, and then go out in the world and get a job. anywhere but the USA. That's what the visa officer really wants. So look up jobs in France in civil engineering, or in China in psychology, or it doesn't matter, anywhere that's reasonable that has jobs. Look them up on monster.com. Entry-level jobs in your major. Print it off, learn it. And when he says, what are you going to do when you're done with your degree? Don't say I'm going to go to Silicon Valley and become a millionaire with my new tech app. Tell them the more reasonable and more likely outcome, which is that you're going to go get a job like this one in France that you looked up for civil engineers, entry-level spot. Be able to talk about your exit strategy. That's really important. And know that the exit strategy is going to change. It's a lot of years away, but you have to have in your mind a plan for today. And then always tell the truth at the visa interview. It's so easy to try to slip a little something in there. Just don't do it. Be prepared, make your plan, figure out what you're going to do, and always tell the truth. All right, so those are your hacks right there. There's your list of hacks. It's so easy to get in. If you've got enough money and you speak a little bit of English and you manage your visa right, you're coming to California and you're getting your degrees and you're going to work. Just be careful. So here's the last slide. EducationUSA, they know everything I already said. They already know. They've been trying to tell you, or they've already told you. So go to your EducationUSA office and talk to them. Go more than once. Don't just go at the last minute. Be a part of their community. And also, you can come talk to me. Me and my staff, we have open office hours. We're on Zoom 3 times a week. The hours may not be perfect for you, but it's what we have. And you can just pop in and ask a question, and you can do that every open office hour for 100 times if you want to. You can bring your mom and dad. You can bring your little sister. You can bring your dog. But come to those open office hours and ask questions. The questions that we answer are questions for the entire ecosystem of California universities. And frankly, the rest of the United States works pretty much the same, even if they have a lot less schools. So we'll answer the questions for everyone. And what we want, our goal, is to get you into the United States with a United States bachelor's degree. Don't have to do College of Canyons. You really should do the 2+2 that we've been talking about, where you transfer. That's really the best way to do it. You don't have to. There's lots of other pathways. We could talk about all of those. So with that, I'm going to open it up for anyone who wants any more questions.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Tim. Thank you for sharing different hacks. Personally, I have made my notes, and I will be sure that I will share these hacks with my students. Yeah, guys, we're actually ready to answer all your questions. So please do not hesitate to drop them right into our chat box. And we will answer them. And personally, I have a few of questions, if you do not mind. Okay, so my first question will be, you have touched the topic briefly about the prestige of community colleges. And, I often meet different students, and they are kind of worried, and they have their little concerns about applying for community colleges because they are not as prestigious as four-year colleges or universities. So do you have any thoughts on this? And maybe you can kind of convince students that community colleges are still, great option.
Right. Okay. So this is a very common question and a really easy answer. Prestige comes from the school you graduate from. So if you graduate from Berkeley, you get a diploma, a piece of paper that has your name on it, has Berkeley on it. That's the prestige. Where you start does not matter. No one cares. No one will even ask. So if you go to Berkeley for 4 years, or if you go to College of Canyons for 2 years and Berkeley for 2 years, it's equal, exactly the same. The prestige comes from the school you graduate from. Now in California, in the eyes of employers, prestige is from a California university. They don't care which one. So prestige is that. Now, there are some great private universities, Stanford, USC, but there's a lot of other private universities that may not have that same cachet. So prestige comes from the school that you graduate from. Do the 2+2. If you can get straight into Berkeley for all 4 years, and you're mature enough to handle the neighborhood, because it's a really rough neighborhood, and you have plenty of money, and they let you in, you don't need me. You don't need the hack. We're talking about hacks today. Today, it's all about how to get in a way that is different from just going straight in. Out of the 100,000 applicants to Berkeley, and they accept maybe a couple of thousand, what's everybody else going to do? Everybody else needs the hack. So that's why we're talking about hacks. So prestige comes from the school you complete. And by the way, if you finish a bachelor's degree and then go get a master's degree, the prestige is on the master's degree, not the bachelor's degree. Nobody cares.
Okay, thank you for answering. Got your point. We have a few questions in the chat, and first one comes from Diana. And Diana asks, what extracurricular activities do California universities consider most important? I want to apply for bachelor's or architecture yet, do not know what activities to do.
Okay, good question. It's so hard to unprogram students into thinking that they have to prove how amazing they are when they're in high school in order to get into a university. You don't need to do that. So there are 115 community colleges in California. None of them care what your extracurricular activities are. They care about what you do when you're on their campus. What extracurricular activities do you do on campus? There are over 20 California state universities. They don't care about your academic, your extracurricular activities in high school. Your private schools and your prestigious University of California schools like UCLA and Berkeley, they are desperate to try to figure out which students to let in because they have so many applicants. So you could go two ways. You can do 2+2, which means you come from, say, College of the Canyons, and then you go to UCLA Architecture School, or Berkeley Architecture School, or you can just go straight to the architecture school. If you do the 2+2, they don't care about your extracurricular activities in your high school. They care about your extracurricular activities at College of the Canyons. So I want to unwind the mythology that you have to be an Uber producer and not allowed to be a kid when you're in high school. It's too much pressure. And we have 50 years of data that shows that a kid who had 7 volunteers and extracurricular activities and was president of this and president of that in their high school doesn't necessarily graduate, because when they get to California, they're away from their friends, their family, and all of a sudden they're around lots of really smart kids. And now the game has changed. The board is completely different. And they don't have the heart to make it through, because it takes a lot of heart to make it through university. So stop worrying about those things. You're going to need a portfolio to go to architecture school, something that demonstrates you have some sort of talent around drawing and visualizations and things like that. You're going to develop that during your first 2 years of school at whatever school you go to, because architecture school is really a master's degree program. So you have a long haul in front of you. So don't worry about your extracurricular activities. They don't matter. Go to community college first. If you want to do a 4-year degree in building theory, you can do that at College of the Canyons, for example, and then you go off to architecture school. So there's lots of pathways. There are no, to specifically answer the question, there are no preferred extracurricular activities, even by the most prestigious schools. What they're doing is trying to see, did you get straight A's in high school because all you did was sit in your room and study? Or were you also able to do other things and still get straight A's? That's what they're looking for. So they don't care whether it was baseball, volleyball, chess club, babysitting, church choir. They don't care, as long as it's something.
Okay, thank you for your realistic and practical perspective. Yeah, we have another question from Sophia. Is there any scholarships, maybe not in the Californias, that you will recommend? So is there still a hope to get a scholarship? Because you have already mentioned that it's a kind
Yeah.
of like miracle, but personally, I know a few of Ukrainian students who got full ride scholarship, and maybe it is possible. Let's encourage our followers a little.
Yeah. So there are some scholarships. Think of the word scholarship. It's the purpose of it is basically because you're being asked to come to the university because you're going to contribute to the university in a scholarly manner. So that's what a scholarship is. A tuition reduction or funding scholarship is a little bit different. And so most of the scholarships for most students who get scholarships, they come for year 3 and year 4. Yes, there are dozens of scholarships for students for year 1 and year 2. A lot of full ride scholarships a lot of those come to students that have both demonstrated merit and demonstrated need and are coming from a particular geopolitical location in the world. So Ukraine is going to be a very popular place for wealthy Americans to donate money to schools for scholarships because of the war. Sub-Saharan Africa is another example. Places where conflict minerals are drawn from or conflict diamonds are drawn from. Those are all places where rich Americans donate money to a school for the purpose of the scholarship. But the scholarships come from rich people who are Americans who are donating money to the school for the purpose of the scholarship. And so Ukrainian students are well positioned to capture a larger share of scholarships than a lot of other parts of the world. You're not going to get a lot of scholarships for French students or German students or English students or Norwegian students. So scholarships mean that you have merit, meaning you have top grades and you have demonstrated leadership skills, and you've got to know your teachers in your high school enough for great letters of recommendation, and also typically a financial need of some type. What the scholarship is trying to accomplish is they're trying to take a very promising person who eventually is going to get a PhD and contribute to research at that institution. That student, they want to make sure that student gets the opportunity to do that when money's the only thing stopping them. So all states are the same when I'm talking about scholarships. It's not that California is harder to get a scholarship. It's actually easier than most places. And there's scholarships all over the United States of different types. I have a spring scholarship. Every spring you get $1,000, and that $1,000 is donated by a local community member. That local community member is usually a leader in a business area. And they've picked you for the scholarship because you're studying something they like. And so you get to know somebody in the real world. And that real world person can help you navigate your next stages of career. It's to introduce you. Then there's also scholarships that are full ride scholarships that they take care of everything for you. There's a few of those, dozens of them. But when you go to the visa interview, don't count on that scholarship as being your mechanism. And I am very much unqualified to talk about full ride scholarships at other institutions because it's their decision, their criteria. Your best scholarship information, if that's your only way to pay, is to go to your EducationUSA office and talk to them. They are the specialists at scholarships. Unless you go to a webinar that is specifically about how to get a scholarship at my institution, you're probably not going to get good information about scholarship. You're going to get a lot of anecdotal information or a lot of this is the odds or here's a form to fill out. I get emails every day about scholarships. Hey, is there any scholarship do we have scholarships for students like this or like that? Or our application time is opening. Please get some people to apply, and that's because they want lots of applications so they have a nice big pool to choose from so they can get the best student, and that's great. And when those come around, I send them around. But most of them are data collection concepts, and most of them are loan programs. So be careful about it and talk to your Education USA people. I cannot overemphasize that scholarships and Education USA, that is your best information.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Tim, for clarification on scholarship topic. I believe that it's kind of extremely important topic, and it's kind of like a pain point for Ukrainian students because not many of them, can really allow to pay, so big amount of money. That's why I believe our students are so interested in discovering this topic. But yeah, guys, you are always welcome to book the consultation with Education USA team. So yeah, just go to Google and type Education USA Ukraine, sign up for consultation. Yeah, and there is the option to choose the consultation directly on financial aid. Yeah, so and we will be happy to consult you. Yes, thank you, Diana. Thank you, Sophia, for your questions. Any other students? Yeah, you are very welcome to leave your questions in the chat box. I believe that I have one more. So you have already mentioned that it can be a great idea to stay with a host family, but how to find this host family, because I believe that not many students know how to do this, what sites should you use, where should you go, how to find this host family, and how to be sure that it is a good host family, because it's not easy to trust people you have never seen.
Yes, very, very good question. And there's lots of web pages to do host families, So this is a common problem. And the reason the problem is so big is because you'll sign up with a host family, you'll show up, the taxi or Uber or whatever will drop you off at the house, you wheel your suitcases up, you're all nervous, you ring the doorbell for the first time, and the person answers the door, looks at you, goes, what do you want? Who are you? And they never heard of you. That happens way too often. So choose, if you're going to do host family, so first of all, your housing arrangements should be made through the school. That's the answer. So at College of the Canyons, Andy does all my host family and only for me, only for College of the Canyons, not for Arizona or New York and everywhere else in the world like other host family companies. He only does it for me. That's how you make your arrangements with host family. Do it through the school. If the school says you're on your own, or get an apartment, which is very difficult to get an apartment from overseas, the apartment manager wants to meet you in person, and you got to pay 6 months rent in advance. So if the school can't make housing arrangements with you and support you on that, it might not be the best place for you to go. Now, lots of schools have conquered that with dormitories. I cannot tell you how often students go to dormitories. Yes, they're great. They're easy to slide into. After the first year, when their contract is up, they are out of there. Dormitories are not popular. Lower division dormitories. And I'll talk about the lower and upper division in a minute. But the answer to the host family is find a school that makes those host family arrangements with you through people who are associated directly with the school. Now, when it comes to dorms, which are the most popular question I get asked is, how much are your dorms? And I have to say, well, I don't have dorms, because most universities don't have dormitories. Lots of universities do. So the thing about dorms is there's usually what's called lower division dorms and upper division dorms. Lower division dorms are the first 2 years, freshman and sophomore year. Upper division dorms are junior, senior year, and master's degree students. Those dorms are quiet. They're made for studying. They're made for conversation, academic conversation, intellectual conversations. The lower division dorms are for people who just, they most of the time, they're mostly interested in the social aspects of going to university. That's fine if you're an American student and you can afford to mess up on a semester and then have to do it all over again. But international students are paying a lot of money and they're long ways from home, and they have consequences for not doing well in their academics. So you got to be really strategic about dorms. The short answer is make sure that the school directly knows who you're making the arrangements with a host family. I know all my host families. I will come to your house. I will knock on the door and I will try to find out, why are you playing video games at 2 a.m. instead of doing your sleep, which is what you're supposed to do. So I will be there. That's the kind of school you want to go to.
Yeah. Thank you for your advice. Thank you for your advice. Okay, I believe that we do not have any questions in the chat. Guys, Dr. Tim has already shown his email, so I believe that it means that you can reach out to him if you need any help or if you have any additional questions about California University system. And of course, as I have already said, Education USA is always here for you, so do not hesitate to reach out to us as well. Thank you everyone for being with us, and thank you, Dr. Tim. It was really a pleasure talking with you and listening to your life hacks. I believe that they are extremely valuable and helpful, and I hope that we will be in touch and maybe we can host some webinars on visa interview or any others you have mentioned, because I believe that it will be really cool. Thank you.